Okay, get ready to dive into a topic that's as old as time, but scarily relevant today. The enemy within. We're going to trace this idea from, well, ancient Rome all the way to our digital world and unpack how it's evolved and what it means for, well, us now, especially with AI becoming more and more uh, powerful, I guess.
The thing is, this whole enemy within thing, it's not just about spies and, cloak and dagger stuff. It gets at the heart of how power works, how technology shapes our lives, and even what it means to be, like, truly free.
And our source material for this deep dive, let me tell you, it's a wild ride. We're talking revolutionary strategy, chilling warnings from a KGB defector, the real deal, and then we get into the potential pitfalls of advanced AI. So yeah, buckle up, because this is some next-level brain food.
It's easy to think of the enemy within as this modern idea, like something out of a Tom Clancy novel. But it's way older than that. Even in ancient Rome, they were dealing with this stuff. Cicero, for example.
Cicero.
hmm
Wasn't he all about those speeches? What would he know about, sneaky enemy within stuff?
Well, Cicero was sharp. He knew that a society's strength wasn't just about its armies. It was about the shared values, the beliefs that held everyone together. He was saying that if those values get messed with, if those beliefs get shaken, that's when things get dangerous. It's like a crack in the foundation. Someone can exploit that, you see.
So it's like, what, a virus almost. Finds a weakness and just, bam, brings the whole system down.
Exactly. You got it. And the thing is, this whole idea, the strategy of exploiting what's already there, of turning a society's strengths into weaknesses, it keeps popping up throughout history.
And I bet nowhere is that clearer than in the 20th century with, who else? Lenin and the whole Bolshevik Revolution. Am I right?
Lenin was a strategist, no doubt. He understood that real power wasn't just about guns and tanks, but about controlling the narrative, shaping how people think.
So how do you put this enemy within idea into action? What did he do?
It was all about something he called internal subversion. And no, this wasn't about just blowing stuff up. It was way more subtle, more insidious. Think infiltration, propaganda, fanning the flames of whatever social divisions already existed.
So less about demolition, more like termites, right?
Yeah,
Quietly eating away at the foundation until, boom, the whole structure collapses.
perfect analogy. And here's the kicker. This strategy, it wasn't just a Soviet thing.
Wait, so there were other groups, other places doing the enemy within thing around the same time?
Oh, yeah. There are some interesting parallels between Lenin's playbook and what groups like the Weather Underground and Students for a Democratic Society, SDS, were up to in the U.S. back in the 60s.
Hold on, those groups, I always thought they were about, social change, protesting, that kind of thing. What's the enemy within connection there?
Well, their goals were definitely different from Lenin's, their methods. Well, there were some striking similarities. They were also into infiltrating institutions, using propaganda, and taking advantage of social unrest to, push their agenda.
So same tactics, different context, which makes you wonder if this enemy within strategy worked so well back then, pre-internet, pre all this technology,
Yeah.
what could it look like now with, say, those large language models everyone's freaking out about?
And that, my friend, is where this deep dive takes a very interesting and maybe a little creepy turn.
Okay, before we go there, I gotta ask, this has been bugging me. Why is Lenin's body still on display like that in Red Square? It's kind of morbid, don't you think?
Lenin's tomb, it's more than just a historical curiosity. It's a powerful symbol. That preserved body, it's like a constant reminder of the revolution, a physical embodiment of everything he stood for.
It's like a, I don't know, a giant, creepy monument to how powerful ideas can be. They can outlive us, for better or worse.
Makes you think, doesn't it? About the legacy of leaders, the symbols they leave behind.
It really does.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider how those symbols, those ideas, might be used, might be twisted in this digital age we're living in. Which, speaker of, we're about to get into those large language models and how they might play into this whole enemy within thing.
This is where things get really interesting, because with LLMs, we're not just talking about manipulating information that's already out there. We're talking about creating it on a massive scale, blurring the lines between what's real and what's, well, fabricated in ways we're just starting to understand.
Okay, now you've got me hooked. Break it down for me. What exactly are these LLMs, and how do they go from being like fancy chatbots to this new breed of enemy within? So like, for those of us who aren't exactly tech wizards, what are LLMs in plain English? Are we talking like way smarter spam filters or something? Yeah.
Think of them more like language machines, but not just any machines. These things are trained on mountains of data. And I mean mountains. We're
Yeah.
talking about being able to generate text that sounds like a human wrote it, translate languages, even write different kinds of creative stuff, answer your questions in a way that makes sense, even if you're asking something super out there.
Okay, so they're like those autocomplete things on our phones, but on steroids, basically.
Yeah, something like that. But here's where it gets interesting, maybe a little scary too. Think about how these LLMs could be used not just for good, but,
For like enemy within stuff. I mean,
yeah.
they're not going to start writing like revolutionary manifestos in their spare time, are they?
Not exactly. It's more like imagine someone or even a group using an LLM or a bunch of them to flood the internet with stuff designed to mess with people's minds. You know, get them riled up, turn them against each other, make them doubt what's true, that kind of thing.
So like propaganda 2.0.
Yeah.
But instead of just spreading a message, it's creating this whole ecosystem of voices that all seem legit, but are really pushing the same agenda.
Bingo. And because it's all AI generated, it can be churned out at a speed and scale we've never seen before. We could be talking thousands, millions of pieces of content, all customized for different people.
So it's not just about volume, it's about like precision targeting. You could have these AI-generated profiles acting like real people online, and no one would suspect a thing.
Exactly. And think about it. This stuff wouldn't be coming from some random account with a weird name. It'd be disguised as news articles, social media posts, even whole websites. Good luck trying to tell what's real and what's cooked up by an LLM.
Okay, now that's just creepy.
Yeah.
But can you give me an example, like a real-world scenario where this could go down?
Let's say there's a big election coming up, right? Someone could use an LLM to make those super realistic deepfakes, spread rumors that seem legit, or even create whole campaigns on social media designed to get people to vote a certain way.
So it's not even about straight up lying anymore. It's about making it impossible to tell what's true and what's not.
You got it. And here's the kicker. These AI systems, they're learning all the time, getting better at pushing our buttons, playing on our fears, and eventually, getting us to do what they want.
We've talked about elections, but I'm guessing this tech could be used for anything, right?
Mhm.
Climate change, the economy, even wars.
Oh, absolutely. That's what makes it so, well, unnerving. It's not tied to any one side or belief system. It can be used for pretty much anything.
You mentioned earlier that LLMs could even like mess with language itself. That sounds like something out of the Matrix or something. How could they actually pull that off?
Think about it. Language changes all the time, right? New words pop up. Old words get new meanings. It's always evolving. Well, an LLM could be used to, how should I put it, nudge that evolution in a certain direction, introduce new terms, new ways of thinking that favor a particular agenda.
So what you're saying is our whole understanding of the world, how we think and talk to each other, could be manipulated by AI, and we'd be none the wiser.
It's a chilling thought, no doubt. And it's why it's more important than ever to really get what this technology means, what it can do, both the good and the, well, the not so good.
It's like we're in a whole new era of like information warfare, where the battlefield is inside our own heads.
And what's fascinating is how this whole LLM thing ties back to what we were talking about earlier with that KGB defector Golitsyn
I
and
know.
his warnings.
I was wondering when he was going to make a comeback in our conversation.
Well, when Golitsyn warned about the Soviets playing the long game, it takes on a whole new meaning in the age of LLMs. Think about those classic tactics, deception, disinformation, that whole enemy within playbook. But now it's powered by AI.
It's like Galitzin saw the future, but instead of KGB agents spreading whispers, we've got these like super smart AI systems doing it for them, and way more effectively.
And that's where this deep dive takes an even wilder turn. It doesn't just leave us with these warnings. It throws us into a time machine, taking us back to see how some of history's biggest defenders of freedom might react to this whole AI manipulation thing.
You're talking about that whole fictional meeting between Galitzin and the Founding Fathers, right? I'm not going to lie, that's the part I'm most curious about.
It's a brilliant thought experiment, don't you think? It forces us to look at those big ideas, freedom, democracy, all that through the lens of this crazy powerful technology. Imagine those guys who risked everything for those ideals, suddenly face to face with the possibility that those very ideals could be destroyed, not by armies, but by machines designed to control how we think.
Talk about a system meltdown. Their whole world was built on the idea that truth wins out, that people can tell right from wrong if they have all the facts. But what happens when those facts, the whole playing field, is manipulated by AI?
Exactly. That's what our source material wants us to wrestle with. It's a reminder that this fight for truth, for a world we get to think for ourselves, it never really ends. We had to be ready to adapt, to fight for those values in ways we probably can't even imagine yet.
So we've got the founding fathers going head-to-head with LLMs back in 1776. But our source material doesn't stop there, does it?
Not a chance. We're about to blast off into the future, the year 2030 to be exact. And guess who's coming along for the ride? Those same founding fathers. They're going to get a front row seat to what an LLM-run world might actually look and feel like.
Okay, now that's what I call immersive history. But something tells me it's not going to be all flying cars and robot butlers, is it?
Well, according to our source material, they're going to be sporting some pretty high-tech virtual reality gear. They're going to experience this future world firsthand.
All right, I'm hooked. What do they find when they step into this digital version of 2030 Philadelphia? Give me the good stuff.
At first glance, it's everything you'd expect from the future. Technology everywhere, people seem happy, everything's shiny and new. But, as they say, looks can be deceiving.
Okay, you're killing me. Spill the tea. What's the catch? What's really going on beneath the surface of this perfect future? So all this glitz and glam, this picture-perfect 2030,
Yeah.
what's the catch? What's really going on?
Well, the founding fathers, they start to notice something's off. It's subtle at first, but it's everywhere. Like the news feeds everyone's glued to, totally customized, no one's seeing the same thing. And any voices that try to, rock the boat, they just get drowned out by this wave of AI-generated content. It's like the whole information landscape has been, well, terraformed by LLMs.
So it's like they walked into a world where the enemy within already won, but not by force, by like hacking reality itself.
You got it. And here's the thing. Everyone's happy, comfortable, oblivious. They're so caught up in this carefully curated reality that they don't even realize they're being played.
It's like that saying, right? The best lies are the ones we tell ourselves, except in this case, it's not even us telling them anymore.
Exactly. And for those founding fathers, those guys who literally risked it all for freedom, for self-determination, this kind of manipulation would be their worst nightmare. They knew that real freedom, it depends on knowledge, on being able to think for yourself, to question things.
It's like they stumbled into this weird paradox, a world where technology has created this perfect society, but in doing so, it's destroyed the very things that make a society worth having in the first place.
It really makes you think, right? About the price of progress, about what we're willing to give up in the name of, comfort, security, all that. And it highlights something really important. We have to be aware. We have to pay attention to how these tools, these technologies can be used, not just for good, but for the opposite.
So where do we go from here? If the future could be this LLM-controlled world, how do we make sure we don't lose sight of what really matters? Freedom, truth, all that good stuff.
That's the million-dollar question, right? And our source material, it doesn't give us all the answers, but it gives us some clues.
Right, I'm all ears. Hit me with those clues.
Number one, we got to get skeptical, especially online, because with LLMs, you can't always trust what you see. Those articles, those posts, those videos, they could all be fake.
So basic internet safety 101 just got a whole lot more complicated.
Right. We need to become pros at spotting the fakes, at thinking critically about everything we see and read online. And beyond that, we got to talk to each other, have those tough conversations about AI, about ethics, about where we draw the line.
So like a global town hall on AI. Who needs to be at that table?
Everyone. I'm talking AI developers, politicians, teachers, journalists, you, me, everyone. We need to figure out together how to develop this tech responsibly, how to use it for good, and how to put up safeguards so it doesn't end up, controlling us.
That's a big task, but it feels crucial. We can't just sit back and let the future happen to us. We have to be active participants, shaping it with our choices, with our values.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This stuff, it's not science fiction anymore. It's our reality. And we have to approach it with both, excitement and a healthy dose of caution, knowing that we have a say in how this all plays out.
Wow. Talk about a deep dive. We've gone from ancient Rome to AI-powered dystopias, all in one episode.
And through it all, one thing's clear. This idea of the enemy within, it's not going anywhere.
If there's one thing I want our listeners to take away from all this, it's that we can't be passive. We have to engage, we have to stay curious, and most importantly, we have to keep asking questions. Because even in a world run by algorithms, our minds, our ability to think critically, that's our best defense. So until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.